the vast and ancient land of Australia, a tale of tenacity, kinship, and customs transpires within. Welcome to our documentary, exploring the origin, lifestyle, and culture of the ancient Australian Aboriginals. The Aboriginal people, one of the world's oldest continuous cultures, have called this land home for over 65,000 years. Their complex social structures, profound spirituality, and close ties to the land have all contributed to the creation of their distinctive way of life, which continues to endure through the ages. According to scientific theories, the first known Aboriginal people in Australia came more than 65,000 years ago, making them one of the world's oldest tribes. They traveled from Africa to Asia, traversing land bridges and sea passages to get there. Evidence providing insight into the lifestyles of early Aboriginals can be gained from archaeological data, which includes stone tools, cave paintings, and ancient artifacts. They were exceptional hunters and gatherers that were prepared to adapt to Australia's various climates, from the desert to the rainforest. Despite the harsh environmental challenges, the Aboriginal people lived in harmony with the land for tens of thousands of years, forming intricate cultural customs and spiritual beliefs. Every element of their being, notably their social structures and artistic expressions, were molded by their strong bond with nature. Thus we begin with the dream time, also known as dreaming or the songlines, the time when the ancestral spirits, known as the dreaming of the ancestors, wandered this land and created its landscapes. Dreamtime stories has been passed down through the ages, teaching Aboriginals about their roots, their relationship to the land, and their obligations to their forefathers as well as towards one another. These Dreamtime stories serve as a source of knowledge, guidance, and cultural identity, where the Dreamtime, the spiritual realm where their ancestors once wandered and established the world as we know it, is the fabric of their origins, concealed in mists of time. A spiritual framework that directs Aboriginal beliefs and activities, the Dreamtime is fundamental to Aboriginal culture. From this creation of various landscapes, Aboriginal nations were formed. The richness of Australia's environments, ecosystems, and cultures are apparent in the distinctive Dreamtime stories of each Aboriginal nation. These tales are intricately connected to the region and its natural treasures, from the formation of Uluru in the core of the desert to the voyage of the rainbow serpent in the northern rainforests. One such example of Dreamtime stories is the tale of the rainbow serpent, representing rebirth and serving as both the creator and guardian of the water. The gender of the rainbow serpent in this tale is said to be female. However, the gender of the rainbow serpent is thought to be varied depending on the setting and the narrative of the tale being told. In this particular tale, the rainbow serpent is said to have awakened from underneath the earth during the time of Dreamtime, when the entire planet was said to have fallen asleep. She created vast, meandering trails as she traversed across Australia, with an abundance of life from her extended nap. She startled the frogs on her journey back home. As these frogs surfaced, the water that had been stored in their stomachs poured over the land, creating the lakes and rivers. Once the water began emerging, plants began to sprout, in turn causing an awakening among all the creatures of the land. These creatures followed her across the land, uniting and forming tribes which settled in various regions of the nation. The rainbow serpent then established rules to ensure that everybody coexisted peacefully. However, these laws lead to arguments within the tribes. Therefore, the rainbow serpent declared that those who obey her laws will be rewarded with the form of a human. But those who disobey the laws created will be punished, deemed to a fate of suffering, being transformed into stone. Those who remained obedient were rewarded their totem. This totem depicted each in their original form, and it has become their duty to preserve and protect their totems. Despite it being known as Dreamtime stories, these tales are not only communicated orally but by means of art, music, and dance. Dreamtime stories are often portrayed in pieces of Aboriginal art, consisting of complex designs and patterns, expressing the spiritual realm in a visual manner. These pieces of art are both a visual representation of their heritage, as well as an indication of the Dreamtime's continuing contribution to Aboriginal culture. It is the duty of the ancient Aboriginals to convey this age-old knowledge, transferring it from each generation to the next through means of rituals, songs, and stories. The Dreamtime is an actual experience that still has an impact on their lives today. Therefore, ceremonies and rituals act as a platform for Aboriginal culture, providing an opportunity for storytelling, dance, music, and art, while proving as a foundation to their cultural identity. These events connect them with the land, serving as a reminder to their place in the world. Other significant life events such as birth, marriage, initiation, and death are commemorated, while ceremonies take place to honor the spirits and ancestors, strengthening the bond created with the land. However, tranquility would not last forever, as in the early 19th century, European colonization began advancing throughout Australia, and it had disastrous effects on the Aboriginal population. Not only did the British immigrants arrive with diseases unfamiliar to the Aboriginals, but the main goal of the British immigrants' arrival on Australia's coast was to lay claim to land, take advantage of the resources at their disposal, and start agricultural operations. Many people lost their lives due to deadly confrontations, while others lost their lives to disease for which they had no immunity. Violent conflicts between European settlers and Aboriginal tribes caused massive relocation, fatalities, and cultural destruction. Aboriginal people had their way of life altered, their traditions forbidden, and their ancestral lands taken from them by force. During this time period, the Australian government introduced laws with the intention of integrating Aboriginal people into European society. These laws included the creation of missions and reserves where Aboriginal people were kept isolated from the general population, as well as the forcible abduction of Aboriginal children from their families, a practice known as the stolen generations, with many of these children never being able to know their parents or their culture. With poverty, starvation, and illness being common aspects of living on reserves and missions, Aboriginal people were deprived of fundamental liberties and rights, mistreated by the government, and compelled to give up their native tongues and cultural norms for the sake of European traditions. The repercussions of colonization are still felt by many Aboriginal communities today, as they endure persistent issues including unemployment, poverty, and unhealthy lifestyles. The resilience of Aboriginal people originates from their cultural roots and their bond to the land, regardless of the face of adversity. Despite all these challenges, Aboriginal people showed incredible bravery as well as resistance against colonization. Regardless of the tremendous difficulties they endured, they battled against the colonial government's attempts to compel them to assimilate while defending their territories and traditions. Aboriginal culture remains to be evolving and adapting today, fusing ancient customs with fresh concepts. Not only does storytelling, dance, music, and art function as instruments for social change and activism, but they also serve as representations of cultural identity, with Aboriginal groups still performing Dreamtime ceremonies and rituals to this day, strengthening their ties to their homeland and their ancestors. We are reminded of the tenacity, power, and knowledge of Australia's First Nations people as we draw to an end of our exploration into the core of Aboriginal culture. Theirs is a tale of adaptability, survival, and perhaps most importantly, an unbreakable bond with the land. For many generations to come, may we appreciate them and keep learning from their great wisdom.